Hey there, Snow here. It's time for another exciting Lazy Gamers review. This time we're diving into the world of Pokemon with the hotly anticipated new games, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. These games promise to be the biggest and best in the franchise with tons of new Pokemon to catch, battle, and trade. So grab your Pokeballs and let's get ready to catch them all as we take a closer look at them. But before we find out if they're worth the hype, please like and subscribe for more. It really does help. Now let's find out. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was developed by Game Freak and published by Nintendo and the Pokemon Company, marks the start of the 9th generation of Pokemon games. Game Freak, the developer behind the Pokemon franchise, is also known for creating games such as Yoshi for the NES, Mario and Wario for the Super Famicom, Drill Dozer for the Game Boy Advance, and Little Town Hero for the Switch, PS4, Windows, and Xbox One. Now, before we get into the new games, let's take a brief look at the history of the Pokemon franchise. Generation 1 of the Pokemon series began in 1996 with the release of Pokemon Red, Green, and Blue for the Game Boy. Pokemon Yellow, also known as Pikachu, was released in 1998. Generation 2 started in 1999 with Gold and Silver for the Game Boy Color, which was followed by Pokemon Crystal in the year 2000. In 2002, Generation 3 kicked off with the release of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire for the Game Boy Advance. Pokemon Emerald was released in 2004, and then remakes of the original Red and Green titled Fire Red and Leaf Green were also released that year. Generation 4 began in 2006 with the release of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl for the Nintendo DS, with Pokemon Platinum following in 2008. Heart Gold and Soul Silver remakes of the Generation 2 games were released in 2009 to close out Generation 4. Generation 5 started in 2010 with Pokemon Black and White, which actually received direct sequels in 2012 with Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. Generation 6 began in 2013 with Pokemon X and Y for the Nintendo 3DS, followed by the remakes Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire in 2014. Generation 7 started in 2016 with Pokemon Sun and Moon, followed by Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon in 2017. This generation also saw the series debut on the Nintendo Switch with Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which incorporated motion control mechanics and offered the option to use a Pokeball controller, similar to the one that's used in Pokemon Go. Generation 8 began in 2019 with Pokemon Sword and Shield, followed by remakes Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl in 2021. Earlier this year, Pokemon Legends Arceus also released and is considered part of Generation 8. This brings us to the present, 2022, and the start of Generation 9 with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are set in the Paldea region, which seems to be based on the Iberian Peninsula. The theme of these two games appears to be time, with Scarlet representing the past and Violet the future. One unique aspect of these games is that there's 3 main storylines that can be completed in any order, with the 4th that unlocks once you complete the first 3. The first storyline, Victory Road, follows a traditional journey to defeat gym leaders and earn badges to face the Elite Four. The second storyline, Path of Legends, involves traveling to various locations to fight overgrown Pokemon in search of the legendary Herba Mysticas. The third storyline, Starfall Street, tells the story of the game's villain team. Once all 3 storylines are complete, the 4th storyline becomes available to complete the game. All the storylines were very enjoyable to play, and the ability to jump between them and complete them in any order was a great feature. However, this can also lead to becoming overleveled if the storylines are not completed at a similar pace. As with many other Pokemon games, there's also a post-game story that ties up some loose ends, as well as hidden legendary Pokemon to hunt down that I won't spoil here. In terms of characters, the game features the title Pokemon Koraidon for Scarlet and Miraidon for Violet. These Pokemon join you at the beginning of your journey, but are unable to be used in battle until much later in the game. This felt a bit disappointing to me, as all they do until the end of the game is serve as transportation and a story device for one of the paths. Aside from the title Pokemon, there's also the starter Pokemon of this generation, Sprigatito, the Grass Cat Pokemon, Fuecoco, the Fire Gator Pokemon, and Quaxley, the Water Duck Pokemon. I personally started with Sprigatito in my playthrough, but after trading Pokemon, I grew quite attached to Fuecoco and his adorable derpiness. All 3 starters have great personalities, and I love their designs through all of their evolutions. The human rivals in this game are Nemona, a friendly battle-obsessed prodigy who seems to be searching for someone, Arvin, a distant classmate who's on a mission to help his oldest friend, and the mysterious Cassiopeia, who seems to be working to take down Team Star. The battle system in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is similar to previous games in the series. You encounter wild Pokemon, take turns using moves to try and defeat them, and repeat. The main new addition to the formula in this game is terastallization, which crystallizes your Pokemon in a different way depending on its terastal type. This effect powers up the moves of that terastal type, and that's about it. While this effect is okay, I personally found it to be a bit underwhelming compared to the Gigantamax transformation from the previous generation of Pokemon. The transformation just looks a little bit too plain. Auto battling also returns in this game. You can set your lead Pokemon to auto battle the wild Pokemon in the area, which can be helpful when hunting for shinies during Pokemon outbreaks. However, the reduced amount of experience points earned from auto battling means it's not a great way to level up compared to actively battling them. I did enjoy how seamless the transition from out of battle to in battle was, whether it was from throwing your Pokemon at another one or running into them manually. I really hope they continue to improve on this in future titles. In terms of multiplayer options, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet offer a decent number of features. Raid battles make a return, allowing you to team up with 3 other trainers, each with a single Pokemon to fight powered-up, terastallized versions of various Pokemon. These battles can be done offline with NPC trainers or online with other players. The game also offers LAN or online Pokemon battles with 2 different rule sets, though I'm not too familiar with the Pokemon battle scene, so I can't provide much detail on them. One new multiplayer mode added to this game is actually co-op play, which allows you to connect to another player's world and explore and battle together. I've yet to try this feature as both my wife and I got sidetracked with other things, but I hear it's actually pretty fun, although very limited. I really hope that Game Freak continues to improve and expand on this feature in future games, as it's long overdue for the series. The music in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was composed by Junichi Masuda. As a founding member of Game Freak, Masuda has almost exclusively worked on music for the Pokemon series. That being said, the music in Pokemon has consistently done a great job matching the environments and getting players hyped for battles. Let's go ahead and listen to some sections from a few tracks from the game. There were also many contributors to the music for this game, but one that stood out to me was Toby Fox of Undertale fame, who composed a single track for Pokemon Sword and Shield and had multiple tracks in this entry of the series. While music in the series typically does a good job getting you hyped from battle, I personally found most of the battle music to be underwhelming, with the exception of the battle music for the Starfall Street storyline. Alright, now before we get to this next section, I do have to mention that I made this review and played the game before patch 1.1, so some stuff may have been fixed. Now, the graphics in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are pretty decent. Not great, but not bad at all. The landscapes are varied and detailed, and there's a day-night cycle. However, this only applies when playing in handheld mode. When playing the game on a large TV using the Switch's docked mode, the graphics can become blurry and text can be borderline unreadable on a 4K TV. Now, this is where the game really falls short. There's many performance issues and graphical bugs. For example, NPCs in Pokemon move at low frame rates if they're more than a few feet away from the player, which looks awkward and very off-putting. Textures sometimes just don't load in the distance, leaving blue or white textures in their place. NPCs and player characters' body parts will randomly disappear, leaving just a floating head or other body parts. Textures will also sometimes just straight up unload, allowing you to see through them. There's also a strange bug where you can see the Pokeball of your lead Pokemon sticking up from the ground, both in cutscenes and open world. These issues really detract from the overall experience of the game. In terms of replayability, it's a Pokemon game, so the options are the same as in previous games. Once you complete the game's Pokédex and story, all that's left is grinding Pokemon to max level, participating in raid battles with random players, competing in online battles, hunting for shiny Pokemon, and breeding Pokemon for perfect EVs and natures. There's literally nothing new in that aspect, and that's extremely disappointing. Overall, I really enjoyed the story in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I haven't felt as invested in a Pokemon game story since Pokemon Black and White, which just shows how good it was. The characters and the new Pokemon were likable, and I had a lot of fun through the main game and post-game. The music was decent, but I didn't really get pumped up by the battle music in 2 of the 3 paths like I would have liked and expected from them. The graphics were okay, but there were more bugs and glitches than should have been present in a franchise as big as Pokemon with as much funding as the Pokemon Company and Game Freak have. Most of these bugs and glitches occurred frequently and organically, and honestly really should have been caught by QA before the game's launch with how often they happened. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet lack innovation, which, to be blunt, I feel is just laziness on the part of the developers, since they know any game that they slap the Pokemon name on will sell millions of copies. After 38 games, there's really no excuse for them to be using the exact same battle system with only tiny minor tweaks. I really would have liked for them to try something new for a change. Despite enjoying the game's story and the new Pokemon and characters, I have to give Pokemon Scarlet and Violet a 6.5 out of 10, bordering on a 6. The lack of innovation and the extreme presence of graphical glitches and bugs really overpowered the enjoyment I had with this entry into the series. The story was good, but it just wasn't good enough to excuse all of the bugs and glitches. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my review of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe for more, it really does help. Now, what Pokemon did you start with in this series? Tell me in the comments down below. And what do you rate the game as? I'm curious what everyone else thinks. I personally just couldn't get over all the graphical glitches and issues that I had with the game. Anyways, that's gonna do it for me today, guys. Thank you for watching again, and have a good one.